Well, yes, yes, yes. This is Dr. LT. We are here live, as promised, with a special edition of the Wake Up Morning Show with Dr. LT and Robert Earl Dean. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we have a special guest in the studio with us, live and in living color. The man that we know as Mr. Rudolph Johnson, the president and CEO of the Neighborhood House. And Mr. Johnson, I couldn't do justice unless I let you introduce this icon of a human being that is with you today. Who do we got with us today, sir?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. And it's my honor and pleasure to introduce a man who really needs no introduction. You know him as an author, a speaker, a motivational leader, someone who has place and presence internationally. I just know him as my friend. Mr. Stedman Graham is with us today. Good morning, sir.
Oh boy, that was a nice introduction. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Boy, I love the God radio. Man, that is unbelievable.
Wow. Well, we're very excited to have you here today. As a person that works with young people and always want to see people being motivated, I remember when I first saw you come on the scene, and I'm like saying, who is, I'm a teacher, who's this tall, light-skinned brother that is literally impacting young people all over? We first met in Oceanside when you were doing some projects up with the Oceanside Unified School District. And so I just want to start off with there. How did you get involved with working with young people?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I am so glad to be here with Rudy Johnson, the Neighborhood House, and it's just a pleasure to be able to have that kind of leadership around some of the work that I do, which is why I'm involved with Neighborhood House and have been on this golf tournament for the last 13 years. I think I missed one tournament. And so this work I do, wow, it's really based on, when I see God up there, I know God is love, and it's really based on the love that you have first for yourself, to understand that the process of success is the same for everybody, and you're trying to take that same message and make that message available to as many people as possible so they can live a better life, which is my passion and my purpose in life. I teach identity development. That's my one word, identity. And so I teach that. I teach people how to find out who they are. And to me, that is about as close to freedom as you can. So I start with young people. I'm grassroots. So I'm doing young people, working with elementary school, middle school, high school, college, vocational schools, teaching people how to organize their life, teach them how to organize information and education and make it relevant to their personal, professional development. So I just love it. I do this because I love it.
Okay. Now, how did you all get connected? Now, Rudolph, you are an icon in the city of San Diego. How did you connect with this other icon?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call myself an icon, but I've been blessed to get to know icons. Many, many years ago, when I first took the helm as the president and CEO of this organization, and I'm in my 17th year now as president and CEO. I think 2 years in, a mutual friend of ours, Carl Rustin, who knows everyone there is to know in the city of San Diego, in all walks of life, walked this gentleman into our lobby, called me downstairs. We shook hands, and from that moment on, he's been my big brother. And my one word is leadership. I found that out yesterday. And from there, we just really focused on common ground, things that were in our mutual interest.
Like golf,
helping individuals, developing bench strength, next generation leaders, youth. All of those things are kind of in our sweet spot. And I just watch my big brother work, and, I'm just trying to soak it up like a sponge.
Now, I just want to say that, this golf thing. I got some clubs.
Friday at 8 o'clock, shotgun start, be there, we have a spot for you.
And I got some balls, and I got a glove.
Does he know how to hit them?
And the best I could say is I'm a beast when it comes down to the putting range.
Yes.
And what's the other thing? The driving range.
Yes, sir.
You know, but when it comes down to getting on the course,
Yes, sir.
there's a fear factor that I have. So I want to ask, you know, Stedman, I want to ask you, how did you get into golf? And I want you to go all the way back to your first time playing on a full course.
Wow.
And tell me how you were impacted. And did you want to quit or did you push forward?
I think Damon plays a little bit too, right?
I do. Try.
My first time was I worked for a guy named Bob Brown, or I started working for a guy named Bob Brown based on him inviting me to Cote d'Ivoire, Africa, with a delegation of guys, and we went over to the country at the guest of the president, and he said it's a golf trip, and he said, "Do you play golf?" And I said, "Yeah." I'm thinking, you know, I swung the club every once in a while. You know, when I was a kid, yeah, I played. So I got over there, and I didn't know you could bring any clubs. He says, "Where's your club?" I didn't know you need clubs. So he says, "Where's your clubs?" He said, "Oh, you need clubs?" So I didn't have any clubs. So the guys, about 12 of them, each one of them put a club, you know, donated a club to me, and I had a bag of clubs, and that was my first time really playing real regulation golf. So it was so funny to this day, and we've been all around the world playing, and you know, I've hosted my own tournaments with Athletes Against Drugs. I started a long time ago. Now working with Neighborhood House on this golf tournament. So that's my introduction to golf.
All right. Now that's interesting. See, I could hang with that story, you know, because I got my clubs, something similar like that, but one of those things downtown were going out of business. And they said, all must go. I said, now's the time to buy. Brother Damon, I'm going to let Robert ask you the first question because of the fact y'all go back a little ways, sir.
A few years, yes.
Just a few. I am just so proud of you. We go back to where we were on a team together, Jackie Robinson YMCA, in the community of Southeast San Diego. And then we had a chance to compete against each other when I competed for Lincoln High School and San Diego High. Mm-hmm. What makes you still want to work in the community?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's really just about the passion I have for San Diego. Being born and raised here, getting all my formal schooling here,
Yes.
has just built a deep love for the city of San Diego. And so, you know, it's just about my passion and dedication to our community.
Well, I like that, and I'm going to pitch this back over to Mr. Rudy Johnson. The word leadership. I think that when you and Mr. Graham get together, leadership becomes a forefront of conversation. What does leadership mean to you, and how are you impacting future leaders and building succession plans?
Wow, that's really a three-parter. But before I start down that track, let me just say, Damon Carson is international. He's not just a neighborhood, leader. He's international, and I want to put a pin in that, come back to that, because he left some things out. But leadership for me means really, having the vision to move a couple of individuals or a large group of individuals into places that they probably didn't think they could go. And at the end of the day, and I said this to my big brother yesterday, it's almost like coaching, right? If you're into coaching sports, right? What you want to get out of your athletes, what you want to get out of your employees is probably a little more than they thought they could get out of themselves.
Yes, sir.
But probably a little less than you wanted.
Right.
So you meet somewhere in the middle. The other thing a leader has to have is the vision to see around the corner or in the blind spots that no one else sees, and move a couple or an organization towards that particular vision. And oftentimes, because folks don't see it, they don't touch it, they don't feel it, there may be some non-believers, and you have to continue to coach them up. And so I see all of that as leadership, and being willing to get in the trenches and do every single thing you're asking them to do. That's the last piece of it.
So, Mr. Graham, this is the question I would have for you. you are a person in demand. People probably call you when you don't even want them to call you. How do you select your organization and organizations that you do work with, and how did you decide to say that this organization here was going to get so much of your time?
Well, I would say this. Number one, you have to know who you are. You have to work from the core of who you are. You have to have clarity. It's just like Rudy was saying, you have to be clear. You have to have a vision of not who you are, but who you want to become. And the only way you can do that is you got to be able to source content and information. And today you couldn't have a better time to do that because we have access to technology. So our ability to organize information around what you do well. You know, Rudy and I had a conversation yesterday about what is your word? What's your word? You know, his word is leadership. Damon's word probably is leadership too. You know, he's been doing that. So your ability to be able to source content that's relevant to your development so you can eliminate the time wasters. Those things that you should not be doing because you can't replace time. So your time is the most valuable thing that you have. So you ought to be able to leverage your personhood, the power that each one of us has as a person, and to be able to be clear on how we use our time for the benefit of our society. First of all, the benefit of ourselves, and then our society. Allows us to be very clear on what we should be doing so we can create social economic development for ourselves and then for our families.
So I want to deal with a rumor.
You always got a
and-
rumor.
Well, let me just deal with the rumor. I heard that one of the biggest selling points for you to work with the neighborhood house was the beautiful city of San Diego and the weather. And you decided that somehow, somewhere, I've been all around the world.
What?
But in San Diego, see, so we say here that if you live in the United States, you're blessed.
Yes.
If you live in California, you're doubly blessed.
But
if you come to San Diego, live here, you're part of the chosen few.
Yes.
I heard that you wanted to be a part of the chosen few, and that's why it was easy to make the decision.
That's
Thank
not
God.
rumor, that's fact.
Right.
So there's no question about it. I don't know if you just live in this place, you are blessed. Please don't take it for granted.
We are blessed people.
This is the best weather in the world. You know, it's a little warm today and a little warm this week, but it's 71 average temperature here in San Diego year round. Okay,
Yes.
so South Africa, Cape Town used to be my number one city in the world. Okay, now it's San Diego, no question about it.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Johnson, you know, you've been all throughout our city in major positions. And when God blessed you to take the helm of the neighborhood house, you had work to do. How did you come up with, you know, this golf tournament? And, you know, a lot of people do golf tournaments, but y'all do this golf tournament in a whole nother dimension. How did it come to your desk like this? And what's the significance and importance of a golf tournament in the overall perspective of the neighborhood house?
So I'll answer the back part of the question first. You know, the Neighborhood House Association is funded through different funding sources. You know, we have federal, state, local government funding. But the piece that individuals don't realize is that there's about $1 million to $1.5 million gap to make budget every year. You have to fundraise for that. Our biggest fundraiser by far is the golf tournament. So that's the back end. It supplements funding that we need to cover our entire operation. In programs like our College Academy, our Homework Center, our internship program, our HBCU initiative, which I hope we'll talk about here soon because that's where we're headed next.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a product of an
Me
HBCU.
too.
Hey, amen.
Yes, come on.
But you know, in terms of the concept and vision, I'll tell you a funny story without, you know, naming names. But I remember many 13 years ago, my team has heard this
Yes,
story,
sir.
and
Yes,
David
sir.
can weigh in on this.
Yes, sir.
Because David's been here a little longer than I have at the neighborhood house. But you know, when I first got here, we didn't have this fundraising event, and I knew it was revenue waiting to be tapped. And I approached our board and I said, hey, we want to look at doing a golf tournament. And, some of the board members was like, he just likes playing golf. And that's true. I do. I don't hide it. However, I'm a businessman and I know revenue over expenditures. And at the end of the day, it may cost you about $50 on average to play a round of golf. When you can charge, a little bit more than that, maybe 2 or 3 times that, give someone a great experience, have a good goodie package and an excellent goodbye event, and they have a good experience, guess what? They're going to be a repeat customer. So we're in our 13th year of this, and it's our biggest fundraiser by far.
Now, Robert, I want you to ask the question, because I know you got about 50 questions on
How you know?
I'm
My
going to give it
mind's
to you next.
Mr. Stedman, being a former athlete yourself,
Yes.
how did playing sports help you in being a motivator? In being an
Wow.
inspirator?
Wow. That's a great. You got to be driven to succeed, and you got to be passionate about what you do, and you got to be able to be on time. Order is the highest level of development. Everything's about organization. And so sports, man, taught me to be on time. Sports taught me to be organized. Sports taught me to get up early. Sports taught me to have the drive. The coach said, run a mile. And then after you run a mile, he said, now run 2 more laps. So it teaches you how to sustain, your passion over a long period of time. It teaches you cause and effect. It teaches you accountability. It teaches you to stand up straight. It teaches you to work on yourself. So you couldn't have a better mantra than being able to work on yourself. And you couldn't have a better time than today to learn how to work on yourself, because we have access to the technology and the iPhone.
Yes.
So to be able to take all that information, that's why it's so important. Athletics taught me to find out who I was as a person and to search for that, and to go to the core of my existence as a human being. And it taught me teamwork and all of those things. So again, you couldn't have a better time than to have the athletic experience, to do what I do, and put those things together to be able to sustain yourself over a long period of time. Can you last? That's what athletics have taught me.
Now, when did you know your purpose? At what moment in your life, if you think of one thing that let you know this is my purpose, this is what I was born to do, this is what I know I need to be doing?
Yeah, it takes a long time to find your purpose in life, because you got to experience a lot of different things, things that you don't like. So I had to eliminate those things that I didn't want to do, and get down to the core of what I really loved and care about. The key word here is love. What do you love to do? And so I created this process, and I had to define my own existence, because I was defined by family with 2 special need brothers in my family, defined by race all of my life, defined by my relationship with Oprah, of course. And I didn't understand who I was as a person, but I had pressure on me.
Right.
And I realized that, the freedom's not on the outside. If you're looking for freedom, it's an inside game.
Come on.
And so when I realized it was an inside game, I had to reverse that process of working on the inside to find out who am I? And you find that because you don't focus on the negative to find that, you focus on the positive to find that.
Right.
If you want a successful life. So I just focused on love as a way to organize everything I love in my life. And then I realized, I could take information, education, and apply it to what I love every day so I could grow. That's when I discovered, your purpose, you could have 100 things that are your purpose, because you can organize 100 things that are relevant to your happiness. And that's how I got into to my work.
So I'm gonna jump
And I love golf.
so I'm gonna jump in because I'm gonna give you a doctor now. I'm like, Dr. Rudy. Every time you turn around, if he did not go to an HBCU, you would have had to give him papers to say he did, because he is so proud of that experience. You have
Yes, sir.
one of our community leaders on here that's going to shout you out. She said, from Head Start to HBCU to the mayor's office, Dr. Carey is smiling down on you. So let's just talk about your trip up the ladder, but the experience that you had when you went to an HBCU, and then bringing that back here, because when you came back home, you know, we was back in the day, and you was on fire, and you come from a legacy
It does it to
of
you.
servants
It does it to you.
servants in this community. So let's just talk about that.
Well, first of all, let me say, and I want Damon to weigh in on this too. So Damon and I both went to Texas Southern. Damon went to law school there. I just matriculated through the undergrad program, just the engineering program.
Yeah.
That's all.
Football.
So sometimes, when you look at African American men, you assume it's like, no, we got a lawyer
Thurgood
and
Marshall.
we got
Yes,
an
sir.
engineer
Yes, sir.
sitting up
One
in
of the
here
top
with you,
schools.
right?
Yes, sir.
God is good.
All the time.
But coming from San Diego, and I don't even know if we have time to preach this message, because
Take
this
your time. Take
y'all
your time.
gonna
Take
get me,
Take your time.
y'all gonna get me going, and I need to say
Take your
this for
time, my
a minute.
brother.
Go,
But,
please go.
Leadership.
San Diego, California, where you're 3% of the population and dwindling.
Yes, sir.
Imagine being 17 years old, graduating from Crawford High School, back in 1983, right? And all of a sudden, 30 days later, you find yourself on the campus of Texas Southern University in a city that is probably 60% African American.
Yes, sir.
On a campus that is 99% African American. You see the president of the university is African American, the head football coach is African American. Every time you go to play a game on Saturday, you have a coach on the opposite sideline that is African American. But here's the kicker. Here's what got me. The referee crew was 100% African American.
Yes, sir.
I've never seen that before in my life
SWAT conference.
until I got to the SWAT.
Yes, sir.
Every single Saturday, it was like that. And you talk about bands, folks, when they think about HBCUs, first thing they want to talk about is the band. Well, we had that every Saturday.
Every day,
Single
too.
Saturday. So, to the middle part of your question, it developed character. It gave me value as an African American male. Coming from a city where we were less than 3% of the population and insignificant in leadership positions, all of a sudden I'm seeing these powerful African American men and women all over the place like popcorn, and all of a sudden I get this thing inside me that says, I believe in me, to Stedman's point. It's that inner core saying, I believe I can do it. And so, you take that, you graduate, you come back, and you just really try to implement in your daily life those belief systems you developed while you were on that campus. But again, we can do a whole show on that. But
Yes.
Damon, what was your perspective?
Well,
brother?
that was heavy.
Yes.
Heavy right there.
Because I'm preaching
was
That's
very
for
that.
real, man.
Yeah.
I'm a witness too.
Now, everybody calm down on
Yep.
your HBCUers.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes.
I went past one time and enjoyed myself there. But anyway, let me say this.
Yes.
A brotherhood that you guys established. And how has that brotherhood served you? Because so many people that go to HBCUs establish very, very strong brotherhoods,
Strong friendships.
and they continue those even after their college days.
It's
So,
very
Damon,
true.
let's talk about the brotherhood and how you serve with your brother in this current.
Let me start by just giving a shout out to the Thurgood Marshall School of Law
One of the top in the country.
at Texas Southern University. I will say it was one of the hardest things I ever done in my life, but one of the most rewarding. It's a place where I found part of my identity because I was challenged every day. Really, really challenged. Had to stand on my own, as Rudy mentioned, being far away from San Diego, California, never attending a HBCU before. I had some soul searching to do.
Yes.
I
No
really,
tacos?
no tacos,
No tacos.
boudin, Frenchie's chicken, everything you love about the South. The brotherhood, it's lifelong. You meet people from all walks of life, but you establish a connection and you become lifelong friends.
Yes.
That's the beauty of an HBCU experience. I was just talking to one of my law school classmates yesterday. I was telling him about the golf tournament. He kind of got mad at me because he wasn't invited. And I said, oh, well, maybe next year. And he's, don't forget about me. Remember, I love you. No matter how, things go, I want you to have a good time, and I love you, my brother. And so that's a gentleman in Indiana that's really reaching out and saying, hey, I still love you after 30 years, of us being out of law school. That's the type of connection that you get and brotherhood that you get.
Oh, yeah.
So let me mess with both you and Mr. Rudy, and that's simply this: that Rudy has a coaching spirit and everything, and it appears to me that he's putting together the best team with the best players with the best toolbox, and then he brings in and connects with Mr. Graham, and I'm like saying, I think that this is a stacked deck and can't nobody win.
I like to say I'm Rudy's #1 draft pick.
He is, no doubt, no doubt. And I would say this: sometimes you got to do things quietly to be big.
Oh, yeah.
I say we are tiny. We don't come in saying a whole bunch, but when you start looking around, you say, "Whoa, they cover a lot of ground."
Yeah.
And there are African Americans in key positions. I was speaking to someone, I forget who. I've had a zillion meetings between Monday and today. But what I was saying to them was, when you do workforce analysis, right? You look at different, populations, ethnicities inside of your workforce in different pockets of your workforce. And I said, what you're going to find about the Neighborhood House Association, we reflect the community we serve from the front line where we're delivering direct services to the executive leadership suite. And that's consistent throughout the organization.
Well, with that being said, they gave me that, that church time thing.
Time.
So, Mr. Graham, one of the things that we would love to continue inviting you in via Zoom or coming in. This is your station, and we appreciate you, number one, for lending your services and talents to this great effort at the Neighborhood House. And we want to hear more from you in any capacity, because the one thing about it, you have a very big presence on the international and national stage, but just meeting you, the humility that you share and how you approach life is, I believe, will bless our young people to the next level. So I want to give you the final words and final statements, and then Mr. Johnson, if you could just tell people, I think the golf tournament's sold out, but you could tell them if they can go to something.
Yes.
Well, I would say, when I think about the Neighborhood House, I think about, the saying that English poet said. He said, all people dream, but not equally. Those who dream in the dusty recesses of their mind, they wake in the morning to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous people, for they dream their dreams with open eyes and they make them come true. And that's what the Neighborhood House is trying to do. It's trying to take people who are sometimes less fortunate and then give them a process for success and give them some temporary help, to get them on their feet so they can dream their dreams with open eyes and they make them come true. So it's just a pleasure for me to be a part of the golf tournament and the organization and the work that Rudy's doing as a leader and Damon's doing as a leader, and all of the leaders that they have, support leaders that support the mission and the philosophy of this great organization.
Wonderful. Mr. Johnson.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for having us today. Thank you for giving us some time. I want to thank my big brother, Stedman, for coming out. This is extra. We asked him to come out and represent on the golf course, but he's more than willing to do what he needs to do to help us with our brand identity. So we appreciate you. I want to thank Damon Carson, who is my #1 draft choice and a franchise player. We slapped the franchise tag on him. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yes.
And all your listeners, just want to thank them. We'd love to come back. And thank you just for we're going to be 110 years old serving this community coming up in 2024. be looking out for some special events, and thank you for all your support over the years.
Well, with that being said, you have heard from none other than the president and CEO of the Neighborhood House, Mr. Rudolph Johnson. You have heard from his number one draft choice. I thought I was going to get the position, but I didn't. Attorney Damon Carson, and none other than the incomparable motivational speaker, internationally known Mr. Stedman Graham, right here on GOD Radio 1.
.com.